Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to beautiful Stockholm, Sweden. WTF Moses, Matt joining you. We are at the GLL Grand Slam Showdown, and we are just about underway for North America and Latin America going at it.
In a battalion-style match. So it's going to be 32 versus 32. So if you've been watching what's been going on between CIS and EU, congratulations CIS, you can see the fact that it's an interesting style and a different way to play PUBG, and I can't wait to see how Latin America and North America choose to play this out.
And we just watched the European squad and the CIS squads go at it. And I got to say, Matt, it is very impressive to me just how much the European squad went to not have to play Miramar at all.
I know. They went to great lengths to avoid it, feels like. Somehow just having issues every single time Miramar shows up.
Well, let's take a look at how exactly we'll be playing these matches. As we look at the bracket here, as we just said, we saw CIS take out EU very early, 3-0'd them, and now we'll be deciding who will meet CIS in the upper bracket. So for North America, especially, I think they have a lot of momentum going behind their back. They got a lot of good caliber players. Latin America, no different, and we'll be moving all the way through the weekend until we discover who the champions are for the showdown. So I gotta say, for all these teams coming into it, it is a best of 5.
Yeah.
But you have to win, Matt.
I mean, and with this, naturally, you can get a look at the schedule and how everything's going on. We've got the showdowns that are happening right now, so naturally it's going to be here with us with Latin America, North America after that. And then we have the winners match. It's going to be a best of 5, and that's where Pansy and Sims are going to step in. But then we have the pre-show tomorrow that's going to be again with us, and then we move into everything that's going to be going through the rest of the series. And whenever we actually have the entirety of the GLL Grand Slam start up.
Absolutely. So not only that, we have the showdown before every single day, and then we'll move right into the Grand Slam. We'll be watching the pro players play. But a lot of these showdown players have pro or pro level experience. Now, a lot of influencers, but a lot of these guys have dabbled at the very least in some semi-competitive play. So very high level competition as well.
A couple of the streamers went to go find a few of their pro friends to bring it in. But that being said, it is a 32 versus 32. If you saw those earlier matches, naturally red zones are going to be active. That's going to be something we usually don't see in pro play, so we're going to have to play around that. And care packages. Being able to use the flare gun, I would say, was a big influencer inside of the third round, where we actually saw 2 of the BDRMs come into play and makes for some very interesting pushes.
Let's take a look at the Latin American teams, or actually the Latin American players who will be playing today. I mean, the Latin Americans, the region as a whole, has been interesting to watch as they develop. They've constantly been on the brink. They have a couple of teams here playing in the Grand Slam, but we have Forever here, who's a well-known player. And for Latin America, I mean, the style the style they played in, Matt, has kind of tended to be, I wouldn't say passive, but they're very strategic, tactical approach to the game. They like to play in a way that gets them into the late game, but in a 32 versus 32, I'd be really interested to see if they come alive and start, bringing that firepower.
Well, what's very interesting anytime we've looked at Latin America is the way that they move through a map. Now, whenever we've been looking at how squads go through, these guys are never afraid to take any form of skirmish. If they're trying to make a rotation on foot and somebody shoots at them, they will just stop in the middle of the field, have faith in their aim, and go for those shots. When there's 32 of them on the field, that could make for a very interesting, I guess almost like a old-style military game where you just have a line of guys with Car 98s taking pot shots at people as they rotate. So it could be interesting to see how that plays.
We lost Pava. I don't know where he's gone to. He's wandered off somewhere. Don't worry, we've got production looking for. No, just joking. I can see him literally sprinting across the floor right now to get back to his computer. But the Latin American squad is primed and ready to go. And I think that in a 32 versus 32 format, where you're constantly looking at not just one-to-one fights, but big group engagements, compound holds, all the same things we see in competitive are going to be just as important.
Rotations and communicating how you're moving, that's going to be the big factor. With this many people, communication lines can get very muddy very quickly. You know how everybody gets a little bit excited whenever PUBG happens, somebody takes the shots. Now you have to figure out how to convey that, and if it's an actual influencing point that you need to play around. Because if one guy is just sitting off the side taking shots, you don't want that to stall your full 32 man from pushing that direction.
Absolutely. Taking a look at the North American squad, we got Avery there. Right beside her is Kat Conti. Now, these are people rather that we really interact with. You've seen them at previous tournaments, Broadcast Royale, Twitch Rivals. We see these guys playing a lot, and girls playing a lot of competitive level games, and not to mention they have in at least in D Rich's case, who's been with Avery, or comes along with Avery, I should say. He's played at the open level, trying to get into the NPL.
Yeah.
Ashik, who sits next to him, he's played at a competitive level, at the pro level as well.
Correct.
So these are guys and girls that are bringing a lot of competitive firepower along with them.
I mean, and these guys have all played for so long inside the
Right.
scene as well. Like,
Yep.
everybody here has a long history with PUBG on both sides of this, between Latin America and North America. So now it's just going to come down to, I almost want to say, the best leadership is the big factor for me. Whenever you're looking at these 32 versus 32 style games, it's how you can maintain control points and how you can communicate to others that, okay, I need you to do this so that way my squad can do this. And if you lose those communication lines, it just turns into chaos so quickly.
And the other aspect we have to consider as well is who are they bringing to the table to support
Right.
them. So they're not only the people, or the folks that we have here sitting both on Latin America and North America for players, but who have they deputized to be on their squad back at home. We saw in the previous region a lot of names familiar. We had some TSM players, a couple of Raise Your Edge players, PEL level qualified players.
Yeah.
And I imagine the same thing will be said for both North America and Latin America here.
It's kind of funny how that happens once we get to this stage. It's like, technically it's a pro event that also has a streamer event that's going on, so a couple of pros that couldn't make it to this event sneak their way into the streamer side of it, so we might see some phenomenal aim come out of those guys. So definitely a factor to keep an eye on.
So I think watching the 32 and 32 format play out, the BRDM, the care package, you mentioned
Yep.
at the top of the show, very powerful tools, considering that we haven't played on the test server yet, which kind of reduces the viability of that big vehicle. But it is going to be massive for compound breaches, just traveling around. You can fit a lot of players in those things.
And running over people. That's
Yep.
the big factor.
Yep.
With that vehicle, if you have like a group of 20 people that are trying to cross an open field and you drive up behind them, it takes so much damage to actually try to take down that vehicle. You can at least run over one or two people before you go down. So sometimes we've seen some one-for-one exchanges and saw a crazy push coming out from, I believe it was CIS in their third game yesterday, or today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way that these matches have played out with kind of compound holds, rotations as large groups, really the drastic amount of player losses are going to be in the mid game when you're kind of being forced together out in the open if you don't have a clear route. Because once these fights kick off, it's massive. There's 16, 20 people firing at each other. So not only are you managing that as a team, but you also have to deal with the next circle, where you have to go.
A big factor for everybody to keep an eye on are the wings of a fight like this. So you're going to have kind of defensive lines that happen on one side.
Yep.
So whenever one side of it collapses, let's
Yep.
say like North America loses everybody that's off towards the west, then that'll allow Latin America to kind of come in and flank back behind them, and that's when problems really start, because then you can't rotate any points after that.
Not to mention the flanking aspect. Sometimes you'll have teams just kind of break off, circle around. It's kind of like old school cavalry warfare. You send the cavalry off in vehicles behind, try and eliminate some of the defense, or you crash a compound, take some attention away from the front lines. It is really fun to watch from a top-down perspective. It kind of plays like a strategy game.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's almost like whenever you're looking at this, it's all about how you maneuver around. And again, it comes back in those communication styles. Who has the best communication can usually come out on top, because if somebody relays, hey, I've managed to get my squad back behind enemy lines and I think I can hold them down, they relay that back over towards their generals, and their generals make calls around that. Oh my God, that's whenever you start seeing some awesome plays come into play.
So we're still loading up into the lobbies, getting everyone situated. When you have, yes, Avery, do you have a question? The amount of players getting into the lobby right now, a little bit higher than normal. So getting all 64 players situated and on the right teams, and the way that CIS just absolutely steamrolled EU back to back games.
That last game, I think they still had like 20 to 25 people still up after they had decimated EU. So that was that one's going to take them to the heart, to say the least.
They can get out of hand as well. I mean, when the firefight does kick off, there's unfortunately you can get steamrolled if you're not prepared for it. If one team's out of position, even if there's 32 of you, you can't really do anything if you lose 10 right off the bat. Retreating, trying to get downs, collecting, and not to mention the snowball effect, Matt.
Right.
Where they start picking up all that loot, and it becomes harder and harder to keep up.
I mean, we have a lot of really interesting things that could come into play. Whenever you have circles, like I want to just reference back to Game 3 that happened inside there, where we had EU, they had circle control at that point, and CIS just managed to maneuver their way around and turned it into an advantage since the EU was just so centralized they couldn't move and they didn't have the best sight lines, and CIS just maneuvered around them the entire time. So I'm kind of curious if either one of these two regions did a little bit of homework, saw what worked and what didn't work, and might try to capitalize off of that, because naturally, while whenever you have like a lot of the North American streamers playing together, they all know each other. When a lot of the Latin American players, they should all know each other. So we should have a chance for really interesting plays coming into this. It's just a matter of, can they capitalize off of that? Can they use that strategy? And who are the generals for each region?
Momentum map to map as well, because we'll be going through that. We're not playing Erangel. We'll be going through all the different as many maps as we can, unless someone gets eliminated. So I mean, the playing on Vikendi versus playing on Sanhok, and then eventually onto Erangel, that is going to make, I mean, obviously the maps are so different, play so differently. You're going to play one style in Vikendi that isn't going to translate to Sanhok, and of course Sanhok being the unique map that it is, isn't going to translate to anything. So if you have a bad start on Vikendi and then carrying that into Sanhok, that might be a big disadvantage, and that could have been exactly what happened with the EU, who have, by my last check, never played Sanhok.
Well, what I'm really interested in, I'm just going to let that one slide by, is Miramar. If we end up getting Miramar, and we often talk about how hard it is to rotate west to east in these different factors, because almost all the roads run north, specifically even move down to the southern part of the map. That could make for some really interesting repositions, as you have to try to get 32 people down these cliff faces and safe strategy movements. I don't know. It's just going to be really, really cool to see how everybody tries to attack the different maps in different ways. And I'm curious if different regions have their own strategies on how they want to play this out.
And in talking to some of the players on the North American team, just about the Grand Slam, the event, where we're at. Now, we haven't shown a lot of it, but we have a massive event planned for you guys through the weekend. The stage here is beautiful. I'm not going to tell you what it looks like, but just the environment, where they're playing, the fact that everyone's traveled here. A lot of them the first time in Europe, have never been to Sweden, let alone anywhere here.
It's my first time in Sweden. I've never been here before.
Absolutely. So I mean, there's a lot on the line for these guys to kind of show pride, to kind of represent their respective nations, having done the previous tournaments through GLL, through their platform. A lot of experience, but at this stage, it's really the experience they've had in the past on steroids.
It's a little bit of a change-up. I know everybody always talks about land jitters and those different behaviors, but moving away from playing at your house, are we seriously taking selfies right now?
Absolutely. They're doing down the line.
That's what you got to do.
It's a big event. I mean, they're getting ready for the first game. Everyone's still filtering into the lobby as we get things squared away here. Yeah, for these guys as well, having never been away from home ever and to come here, it's got to be a big event.
I'm just excited to see everything get underway at this stage with Latin America. Latin America is one of those regions that doesn't necessarily get the most love whenever we start talking on the international level. So you know that these guys have a lot of high hopes moving into this to be able to kind of show off for their region. And we almost have this little demi-rivalry that's been brewing between North America and Latin America for a while.
So in multiple ways.
But think about this. We have CIS versus EU that's already gone down. CIS won that. And then Latin America versus North America. And whoever wins this then goes to face CIS. It's almost like you're seeing a whole bunch of these teams that you're kind of wanting to see in the finals really early in the series.
And I mean, this is a tournament format. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Spreezy and some of the European players after their unfortunate 3-0, and they weren't happy. They're like, this is the first, in Spreezy's case, this is the first time I've ever lost this format. So having to deal with that out of the gate is not going to be something that either squad wants. I expect a lot of intensity on North America, and it's going to be matched just as high on Latin America's side.
I'm just curious, are we going to see anybody rage at any given point as it goes through here? I mean, we have some people that can be a little bit spicy sometimes.
You know what? Avery spilled the beans on Rich. He is a very passionate guy.
I've cast a few of him at these LAN events, and he gets let's just say
fired up.
Fired up is a good term. Yeah, I mean, he's very, very passionate. He always wants to prove at any given stage.
Same with Kat. I mean, Kat is a fierce competitor. She's very fiery when it comes to winning these games. She's played with other pro players. I know she teams up the Noble guys a lot. All these players, including Avery, in her case, I learned this about her recently. This is her first FPS game ever.
Really?
She had never played any first-person shooter or PC game prior to PUBG. Now, obviously, she spent a lot of time in the game, has dedicated herself to improving. I've played with her in the past. She is a talented player in her own right. And of course, Ashik, I mean, he's got a very long history in PUBG as a pro player, and now moving into a full-time content creation standard. He's kept that intensity. He has kept that skill. So this, just the people on the stage, not alone, let alone the people at home, they're going to be bringing a lot of skill to the table.
I remember Ashik was one of the very first pro players, whenever it was still just everybody hopping into lobbies, just trying to matchmake with each other and try to like fight it out, before we even had custom lobbies that we could use. So this guy has been part of the scene for a very long time. Naturally did make the switch over to content creation, got a lot of popularity, got a few skins as well that he's been able to rock on that. So, I mean, he's become a known commodity inside the scene.
He's chosen smartly with the skins as well. He had the AKM first, which I think was one of the best-selling skins in the game, and then he moved into the wide-open crossbow market. So I think he now there's a couple of competing skins with him, but that bright blue Ashik AKM and the bright blue crossbow, not alone the gloves, but D-Rich, all these guys again, they've got so much experience. I guess let's talk predictions. First couple of games. Vikendi. Who takes Vikendi? Oh, here we go.
Oh, right. We're
Planes
getting up in the air.
Finally. All right, let's take a look. The plane is moving across the top right of the map, moving down to the left. And
right across Milta Power, so that could make it a little bit rough depending on how people opt into moving through this. So we might end up having one of the regions make their way down towards military base, but a commitment like that is disastrous potentially. So I wouldn't be surprised if almost everybody opts into trying to play towards the north with a plane path like this. Looking back, I'm caught up with the flags right now. Look at North America. They've got like the standard U.S. flag, but have replaced it with the maple leaf up there.
Yeah, I guess so. That's the North American region where Canada represents the state in this situation. As I'm a little tilted at that. Hey, look at that. We've got a couple of familiar faces in here on Erangel. Poonage, a little-known Fortnite player, but he might be able to compete here. It's a bit of a different pace for him.
Oh, this is a little bit interesting as well, as a couple teams did opt into going back down here towards the military base. So that's going to have Latin America and North America a little bit mixed up over here. We've got Danny G and Supernova off to one side of it, but who's going to be able to get over into the loot quick enough? So looks like Supernova did manage to get inside, managed to grab a gun, looking back over towards one. Can he catch up to it? Goes for the spray. There we go. Gets one, looks back over at the other one. Not going to quite connect, but I wouldn't be surprised if reinforcements come in very quickly.
This is a rough spot to drop in some cases. That prison building can be unforgiving with the loot, and you can see already they just did not get loot priority, did not have any chance, and there is no way Aussie's getting away there. Arthur and Gubin, however, they've got a couple of guns, and now they're going to try and fight back, but this is a massive superiority here, Matchroom, for the North American squad.
Down here, just anybody that is around any of these points, Supernova is just feeding information back over to the rest of his team. But keep in mind, a couple of Latin Americans are back down towards the southwest from this position. They're going to have to figure out how they get out of here. And poor Gubin, what are you going to? Are you just going up on top of the building to survive with a VSS using the sneaky strategies here? As Little Prodigy is also making his way around the side of this. Are they going to figure it out?
That's a smart move for him, just to try and survive. Now, same thing here with Pachinki. It looks like we've got a bit of a line set up between the center of town. Yeah, Gubin's hiding. He's not moving an inch right now, as Little Prodigy, Supernova, and Mortify are just sweeping, looking for him.
God,
look at the containment. Look at the containment. They're not going to be able to get anywhere.
This is going to be absolutely ridiculous, as rotations are going to have to play. Really, who's going to end up moving first could be a big factor for it. With everybody from Latin America back down in Novo and Milta, sure, they have loot and they can manage to survive through there, but North America's got a little bit more of a spread. I'm surprised that we're seeing Pachinki and military base fights this early.
Joining in Pachinki now. This is, you can see the fronts already starting to build. It looks like North America's got a stranglehold on the majority of Pachinki and are forcing all the Latin American teams into the southern end. They got them in the trench, the literal trench outside of Pachinki here. And the quick spray comes out from Malky, will get one down. And that's the Furia, I don't know how to take an attempt at that name, but man, they're just wide in the open. They've got no real estate map.
I mean, there is absolutely a blockade coming out from North America right now. They're just spraying back down towards anybody in Latin America, and you can see Latin America just can't get their feet underneath of them. A chance to regroup, grab any guns. It's just tap battles everywhere. As you can see, North America's just peeking every single angle and forcing them more and more out of Pachinki.
And you can see their comms coming in. Adam getting a nice nade into the trench, I believe. Yes, indeed, as here comes another follow. A little bounce out and away, but almost takes out. Oh, no, he jumped down into the trench as well. So really Latin America in all fronts has not been able to get a single foothold anywhere on the map.
Just trying to spray back over to the side of it, but with Latin America being forced down into those trenches, they're buying a little bit more time, but sooner or later they're going to have to try to leave those positions. Is North America going to try to push up towards it, or are they just comfortable letting them? Because if they go over and they try to peek that angle, it is so dangerous.
It's like a rolling pin. They're just kind of forcing them further and further out into the Pachinki fields, and once you get out of this trench, there is nothing behind you. So this is kind of the last stand already as more nades start to land in the trench, and this is going to be a huge problem as the rest of North America keeps coming forward.
Look at Ashik making the play around the outside of that building. Could find this nice sight line across from this, but Latin America seems to be where? Trying to use a couple of those little pilot off the side of it, trying to get a little bit more space, but Rava is still inside of Pachinki, one of the last footholds remaining. Looks back over towards North America, takes a couple of shots, but has to be extremely cautious, retreats back off of this. He goes down, but here comes the push from North America right down into that trench. Protege is already down, but here come the grenades.
Yeah, the grenades are going to get in, and that's going to it's actually going to smoke off Adam and Protege, and the reses will come out as Leda is down in the trench trying to do something. But a couple of shots will land, a couple of downs coming out now for Latin America, but I think this is going to be it looks like they might be getting the upper hand. I think they have a couple of players in behind the North American squad.
That push towards the ridge right along the side of the trench really bought Latin America a little bit more space, and as North America's been pushing back down towards it, they keep losing members back and forth. So the offensive line for Latin America has held, but Baby Bean sees a ton of Latin Americans driving through, only manages to take down one, but with this you can see the push still going back over here towards Pachinki. A lot of people from North America down, still playing inside of those smokes, but so
they
little
need nades in there really quickly. Now they're starting to get flushed out, and this push into the trench was disastrous for North America. They lost a couple of players there. Resnick still firing away. Every time they see a player, they can do something, but Adam looks like he's not going to make it, and he's going to probably get flushed out.
Now we've got the red zone joining in. That's going to stall out the fight just a little bit more, but you can see North America lost a lot of numbers. Is it really just Resnick and Ashik still over in this position? I think that they might be the last two. This has shifted entirely over to Latin America's favor.
This started as a pretty big advantage, and now it looks like it's going to be the Latin American squad taking the Pachinki fight, as Ashik and Resnick are likely going to have to retreat. And what a shocker match from having a red zone of Pachinki in the early game. Yes, indeed, the Latin American squad are going to take whatever they can off these bodies.
See, what's interesting is Latin America doesn't know that they have the numbers advantage now. With the way that this is set up, you can't really track, and you don't know how many people dropped in this location, so they're still being extremely cautious, as they should be, and having to hunker around that little bit of a safe spot so that way they don't have anything hit them from the red zone.
I think that would be, after having fought valiantly to get Pachinki away from North America, to get blown up by the red zone would be an absolute disaster. And now taking a look at the overview, a lot of the North American squad has pulled back. They're rotating north and south into the zone. And for Latin America, I think they have a chance. They're only 2 players down.
Well, they're kind of separated out in different areas. So with North America taking control of the southern part of the circle, we can also see they're getting control of the northern part of the circle. More red zone, so got to keep an eye out and see if anybody gets destroyed off of this. There'd be nothing worse than coming all the way over here, making it over to Sweden, and then dying to a red zone in rotation. that would just tear your heart apart.
Well, I mean, most of these, and for lack of a better term, I think almost all of these North American squad mates have some level of pro experience. Seeing the red zone must be a frightening and confusing experience for them, having played in their little bubble for so long.
So we got Little B making his way back over here. Does see one of the members from Latin America going after throwing him, but not actually going to take him down. The ball through is coming with Cat Condi, but look, it's just a trap that has been set, but it doesn't look like it's going to get anything as Kickstart is falling back behind this and is just going to be right up in the middle of 3 different members from Latin America.
Kickstart yelling from his driver's windows, "Will anyone take me onto their squad?" as as Kickstart in the U.S. gives chase.
I was going to say, is Kickstart even old enough to drive?
I don't believe so. Or buy alcohol, or in some cases gets ID'd buying those fake cigarette candies. Or maybe those are illegal now, I don't know.
I don't even know. I think that they have.
I think they banned
by the wayside. Explosive's going to spot a couple of Latin Americans. It's going to be the ridge that makes for a nice line back over to it, but Lowell Soup does go down in this. So Latin America, we talked about, these guys are never afraid to fight, even from a disadvantaged position. Twice now, they have come up very big with that.
LOL Soup, the Face It North America veteran, the last man in the lobby. And Arkia, and there's Kickstart. He's got a great line of sight, taking one down. And again, it's staying really tight here, 25-23 for North America.
Really interesting rotations coming into play as everybody is just charging different locations. Vehicles becoming a factor now. As you can see, it's just the kill feed lighting up with people getting run over right now. We have another trench that's a big factor for it, but looks like Purdy Curdy just gets absolute control over it. In the distance, it's going to be a couple of guys from Latin America, but I don't think they have the cleanest of sight lines.
I think that the way they've kind of set themselves up, at least they've got some cover. Bad Pauly having to back away. It's Pax on the high side popping tires and using that SLR to good effect as he's trying to cover a couple of reses happening out in the field. But again, Matt, staying really tight. A small edge going to North America right now.
I think it's just going to be based off of how much control can North America keep. You can see that they're trying to go for these different control points that have really good sight lines. But with everybody kind of playing inside the field, not necessarily the best positions for it, but Pax is starting to get to a point where he can kind of defend everybody that was having to go around that trench, get those reses back over. But he can see the tip of a gun, but cannot get any shots back over that direction.
Pax being cautious. You can see a couple of silhouettes in the window. Can't land any shots just yet. Just trying to feed that information. Comms in these situations also a big deal. Another couple of SLR shots landing, but no downs coming. Pax in a very interesting position, but no support as now Latin America losing a little bit more players.
Frogman better be careful. He's in a little bit of a rough spot. North America is going to be running right by him, but he is again in an open spot. Looks like he's moving into an aggressive position, taking a couple of shots back over towards Baby Beans, but that's going to draw attention from Purdy Curdy. Frogman gets the shots. Look at that. Just holding through this. We said before, Latin America never afraid to fight, even if wide out in the open. They believe in their aim, and it is turning around some of these fights so quickly.
I've come across Frogman a couple of times in the North American lobby. Shout out to matchmaking, by the way. As you know, he's a very talented player, can hit his shots, as so many can in this lobby. Excuse me, this game. As Baby Beans has stepped up to the front, and that's another down for Frogman.
See, approach, this is where it gets a little bit hazardous. Everybody knows that there's one person in there, but nobody's opting into the push. They don't want to lose that many members. Back down to, I guess, to the north of this position, or I'm sorry, to the south of this position, there's a little bit of a layout where there's more Latin American players. Purdy Curdy going down as well. Frogman is a one-man army against North America right now.
I kind of think, that's a very risky push out. The grenade did come out, but Frogman's going to get flushed. He wanted to go out to try and flush out Purdy Curdy and his potential reser with that grenade. But I've got to say, I mean, even though Latin America is down on the scoreboard, I think North America might have underestimated them a little bit.
There's a lot of solo influencers that are happening for Latin America right now. They're buying a lot of time, space, and denying repositions from North America. You can tell North America's trying to get into these control points, but really just can't regroup the way that they want to. Slowly and steadily, they're starting to mix in, and somehow we can see Kickstart manage to survive through that. The spray goes back over. Vehicle explosion takes down 2 people from Latin America.
A very risky vehicle push there to circle this entire compound. I imagine they're trying to support their one teammate there who's now literally being overrun. North America wants to take the resources and territory from Latin America.
1 member remaining, goes for the spray, does get the down, trying to go for the flush onto Purdy Curdy, and is going to get it, but is going to get down in return as the North American wave just comes through here.
Just a little bit of a bait there for Cat to come in and clean up the kill. Purdy just blind pushing into that hut as more fights continue to erupt, and now this is that wrecking ball squad, but Latin America, I think, is starting to lose ground. They lost a couple of players there, Matt. Didn't trade anybody.
It feels like based off of the rotations that Latin America is having to make. Remember, they started way off towards the east. The circle keeps making its way back over towards the west, so it's constantly Latin America bumping into North American teams as they're making their push through. But with a nice little reposition, you can see Latin America getting a foothold over in Georgia Pool. They do have a couple of members that are next to the cluster. I would say it's just a full army of North Americans back down there towards the southeast.
Kind of a lull right now. We're basically on circle 2 right now.
Yeah.
Haven't really changed much in the way of real estate, but so much happened in the early game.
Poor Technosh, I was going to say, he's over here in the blue.
Oh my God,
got a red zone that's hanging out next to him.
It's been so long since I've seen the Technosh play PUBG. I'm not sure if he was a major fixture in the early scene, having played for, I believe, LG at the first Star Ladder event. And here's the Wrecking Crew again. They've found a Furia player who's got only a tree to hide behind.
Hoonage making the push right up onto the rock. Goes for the spray. Look at that. Does go down in exchange, though.
Unfortunately, unable to get the walls up in time to protect himself from that gunfire as kick-started Lobes coming in to support. And now, we haven't seen too much in the way of losses, but with all this transitioning being done from North America, they are in a potential situation where they can run each other over with vehicles.
Well, there weren't very many Latin American players left in this location, so you can see it slowly starting to whittle down. The grenades are going to start coming out. I think it's just 2 members up right now for Latin America. Nope, 3. They just got the res off on 1, but
wow.
Look at those grenades. Kickstart coming up big, and that's just going to be wiping out everybody around here. Keep in mind, North America does not know that there's no one else left at this point. You got to be careful. Don't shoot your friends.
Okay, mortified. Take it easy.
Don't kill everybody. Sometimes you got to let your friends be, man.
Well, they've basically wiped everybody out there. And, you know, I believe in some situations it's difficult to determine who's actually on your team with so many players running around. And you can see now the North Americans very confused as they shoot randomly at each other trying to figure out who the enemies are. But all the enemies, all 11 of them, have gone elsewhere into the zone. And I think this is where we're going to see a bit of a slowdown in this match.
It's just embracing the North American lifestyle. Just taking random shots at each other as you're walking around, you know?
Yeah.
Just what we do.
As you do.
So we got Latin America now starting to make their way inside the safe zone. They did a long rotation back down to the south. Looks like the guys that were up towards the north around Georgia Pool also making their push back down towards the south as well. Gonna opt into playing around Antenna Tower, which is gonna give them some nice sight lines, but the problem with those sight lines is you have to be ridiculously cautious. Latin America only has 11 members left to North America's 21, so they do have the wall that North American can kind of push through. It looks like we got a couple of scouts. They're trying to go around, try to figure out where those last remaining Latin American members are gonna be at.
And now with the circle being so large, it's going to be like seek and destroy, as so many vehicles were taken out of the game as well. I think that's the big advantage that
He did it.
The Latin American player, he made it into the zone.
He's in the safe zone, Technosh. It only took you 2 vehicles.
Well, you run out of gas too. You have that situation where you discover vehicles that only have a quarter tank or so.
All right, so it looks like North America is starting to move around that location. They can see the profiles up around Antenna Tower, and you can see everybody in North America now feeding that information over, going for a couple of repositions. Looks like a couple of shots are going to go back over towards Baby Beans. Baby Beans being very brazen with this push. Looks like trying to go around the outside of it, but that motorcycle is just pulling through. There's a crate off in the distance that's dropping. I'm curious if that's what Baby Beans is after.
And now with the discovery of these Latin American players, you can see now all of the North Americans are starting to converge on that center position. Topo Lobo, the Latin American cousin of Lobes, is taking some shots at Prodigy, but he's going to get traded out, and that's Netanyahu going down. This is now becoming maybe the last stand here at the radio tower, Matt.
Look at this. North America just pushing up. No fear. They're going to go get into grenade range. This could be big. That could land back over there. Is Forever going to be able to get away from it? Yes, he is. But you can see the crisscross of fire going everywhere. Prodigy walks up, sees 3, realizes it's a bad spot to be at. Goes for the prone shots, trying to just survive through. Matthew's going to buy him a little bit more space. But here we go. We got Shinobi coming up back behind it. So that's 2 now down. It's starting to turn up North America's favor, but they don't have all the numbers up on this angle.
You know, this is a hard spot to defend as well. Those grenades going to land right in the pocket. Got to watch out for that, as this radio tower is just a giant bowl. And as you lose ground on the edges, you can start getting naded, and that's exactly what's happening. North America is washing over the Latin American squad up at this radio tower position.
It's just a few members left, and you can see Forever realizes in a bad spot, trying to figure out if maybe he can go to the vehicle, but there's not going to be anywhere for him to go. So that's going to be North America getting control over that radio tower, and some long-range shots going back over there.
Don't do that. Stop it.
Don't go for those peaks, man. They're not going to pay off for you at this point. Only 5 members left for Latin America.
Ashik does go down and out, but it looks like it is a massive advantage now to North America, and the yellow compound just a little bit further away is now the last remaining player stronghold. Only
Wolf.
5 players left, and Wolf wants to get at them. He actually in the back line, and here comes another grenade. Who'd have thought?
Look at this from the back of the buggy, just trying to throw them over the side. Nowhere for Latin America to go, trying to survive the little mini red zone that North America's making. Gets a spray off to one side, but Wolf does go down in that exchange.
You got to remember too, man, there's a big ping disparity here. All these South American players, Latin American players playing on the North American server. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys interact with each other right up close. He actually lost a bullet coming out, and that is going to do it. North America takes it 18-0 first game.
That is a huge push coming out. We talked about it. How are rotations going to be? That was the deciding factor. Latin America just seemed like they were in spots. They would take a couple of pot shots at one person that was driving by, and suddenly a wall of North Americans would just show up, get those shots. I thought for certain after Latin America got Pachinki, they would have at least some foothold.
I think the pace of the game was really set in the first 5 or 6 minutes, where those first early engagements were so massive. Both sides losing lots of players, resources, vehicles, and the circle being so far away then forced the players to then rotate to center, and that's where things really started to come apart. But man, this first 5 minutes, even the first 2 minutes, you can see North America just got a tremendous foothold on the military base, and also Pachinki, two major areas.
I'm surprised that we saw a skirmish down towards military base with that plane path. I would have for certain thought that, okay, no, this is a potential kill box. We need to not stay here, but we saw both teams trying to vie for those positions. So we have North America that managed to get military base, and Latin America that got Pachinki. That could be an influencer in these later rounds.
And 4 men to a vehicle, that's never going to be a good thing. Frogman for me, for Latin America, this was a tremendous hold. Got a little bit too brazen with this push out, gets punished, but he had a lot of great shots. Resnick taking down 2 in the vehicle, and these interior pushes, poor Purdy, just absolutely flushed right there.
I mean, again, you said it. Frogman, he was the deciding factor for so many different fights. By himself was holding back so many different members of North America. I wanted to see Latin America try to capitalize off of that whenever he had so much resources that were being thrown his way, for Latin America to maybe go for a reposition off of it.
And big nade from Kickstart there as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a lot of familiar names in this North American squad.
Yeah, just a few pro players that are inside on this, just a couple. I mean, I saw a couple of Lazarus guys. Seems like, oh, we didn't manage to make it over to Grand Slam, so we'll just play in the Grand Slam instead.
Absolutely. Well, that's game number 1 in the bag. North America does take it. We're going to go to a quick break, get the second match set up, and we're going to see how things improve or continue to decline for Latin America. knows, but we are back at the GLL Grand Slam Showdown where North America just took the first match. I'm WTF Moses, joined by Matchroom, and we are getting ready for game number 2, where maybe Latin America can pose a comeback now.
All depends. We're going to have to see how the veto selection goes into play, where we're going to end up. I wouldn't be surprised if Latin America is not too keen on going back over towards Erangel. They didn't necessarily have the best showing, but I think that comes down to drops as well. So maybe we might see Latin America separate out a little bit more, or maybe opt into it. To be fair, it was a very cruel playing path, though.
Absolutely, and I think the separation, I mean, that could be dangerous too. I mean, I think they need to do a better job at getting to the ground quickly, as the military base in Pochinki quickly went to North America. However, in that Pochinki fight, Latin America held their own and eventually did force the North American squad to retreat, go elsewhere. But at the end of the day, it was a pretty massive advantage, almost, I think, a 20-player advantage, as Latin America did lose that first one. But now it's time to reset. They kind of know, they got a feel for it. They know what they're going to be dealing with, and maybe they can move forward and try and win this next game.
I mean, there's a lot of very interesting situations that we can be looking at from this. I mean, Latin America, while sure they didn't necessarily walk away with a victory, they had a lot of moral victories that came into play, specifically the Pochinki Trench. In my mindset, they were very disadvantaged in that. It looked like it was just North America was just going to steamroll Pochinki, and somehow they managed to figure out, okay, we can play this patiently. Let's try to bait everybody into coming into the trench. And right as soon as anybody peeked that corner, man, they just got torn apart.
Absolutely. And I think it was a big deal to win that, too. They were in such precarious position, being sewed into that trait. But I think North America just got a little too cocky. They started flooding into the trench. They, I guess, one at a time as well. And, you know, these are good players. Even though these guys might have less experience at the competitive level, they can still shoot. So that was kind of like you said, a moral victory in Pochinki.
I got to say, it feels like North America's got a little bit of ascendant mentality right now. We saw them jump into vehicles and just crash complexes right on top of Latin America. Now, the problem is, whenever you do that, it's a little bit brave if it does pay off. But the problem is, we can see Latin America, these guys can shoot. If you try to do that to something like where we see Frogman holding down a building by himself, it's going to be nuts. Specifically, Moses, on this map of all maps.
This is the first time we are going to see Sanok. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but you know, these players can change up what map we're playing, and they can veto the different ones. So in this situation, it will be Sanok being played for the first time, I believe, today. I don't think we saw Sanok in the CIS and EU games, but look at everybody going boot camp. Oh my God!
Who would have thought? This is like, I mean, this is like matchmaking that's going on right now. Everybody's just like, I want boot camp.
Everybody is boot camp, and I think now the North American squad can see that as well. This is about to be this is about to be a 5 FPS bloodbath here, Matt. As literally, okay. Well, let's just see what happens.
This is just a cluster F right now. Let's be honest. Whoever gets guns right now, sightlines back over here. Looks like Purdy Curdy could be in a little bit of trouble. Does he have anything to work with? No, he's just got fists going against it. But
LATAM is killing each other. They're killing each other. They have no idea who's who. What is going on?
What? That was a fist fight, and he got him down to half-life. It was a flashbang. You can see the hands are still up. Gonna be able to take him down, but look, it's just chaos over here.
Latin America just literally killed themselves and each other. Now there's okay. Well,
more and more control starting to show up in different spots on the map. Looks like North America does have control over the center of it, but look at the amount of blue that is out and around off of this. The spray is going to come through, and that's going to be another Latin American member down.
I mean, they have to stick together at this stage because they don't know who's who. As you can see, the team killing is continuing.
Look at this! What is going on? Everybody's just running through these spots. These tight corners just getting torn apart, but finally Latin America's numbers are starting to pay off, and they're just taking everybody down.
No, I don't know what happened, but yeah, you're absolutely right, Matt. They're starting to take a little bit more control in the center as things are starting to shake out a little bit more. And yeah, North America is actually losing the foothold here. This is the Lobster Building, if you want to call it that. There's so many names for it, but the centermost compound is kind of where this is all kicking off.
At this point,
North America's got to reinforce, but they're actually at the disadvantage.
I mean, there's a group coming in from the north for Latin America that's just going to smush down into like the last 3 or 4 members from Latin America. 10 kills already for Latin America. They're turning this game on its head right at the get-go.
I didn't think that they would ever get an advantage because they were mostly shooting each other on the way in, but we saw so many North American players come out on the southern side. Rabbit trying to get Punaj down as he jumps around. Can't get him to go, but no attachments, naked guns. This is this is an absolute bloodbath here in the center.
See, it's Latin America with the next level strategy. They were warming up on their aim against each other.
Yeah.
So then when they moved into the fights, they were set and ready to go.
It was a trap. They were like, oh, they're killing each other. Let's rush in there one at a time. But the reinforcements now arriving on the south side of the boot camp were coming in, and Fury is running over to try and help. And man, I gotta say, yeah, Latin America's definitely got the numbers advantage now.
It's just every single angle. There is nowhere for North America to go, and they're still trying to make it down this hillside to move into this spot. At this point, if you're North America, you just got to get out of boot camp. You don't want to continue making this push down in here. There's nothing left for you.
I mean, you got to spread out around the boot camp, because if you think about it, North America, instead of rushing into this thing, they could contain them inside the boot camp. There's a great hill. You see a Matthews over there. You can get on the warehouses on the other side, and you can contain everyone inside of boot camp, which might be the next stage if North America wants to come back. But you can see now it's starting to get more and more equal. It's 17-17 now.
The rally is starting to come through. We saw it for Latin America in Pachinki in that last game. North America is starting to get a little bit more control, and they're starting to force them from those long sight lines you're talking about on top of those hills. Now they can't really go out and peek so much. Adam has still got a little bit of a foothold that he can play around with, but realizing the fact that he has a lot of people around him at this point, going to opt into trying to play around this. Actually, is he still on the hunt? He has to hear the footsteps above him. This is so dangerous, Adam. You have to be ridiculously cautious right now. He knows he's clear back behind him. But now as he makes his push forward, it's just going to be so dangerous. Look at how many Latin American players are still inside Lobster.
Well, they're in the zone as well, so the urgency to move is not there, and there's still another 4.5 minutes for the circle to close. And this is that southern side where everyone's starting to flood in, and now it's going to be, this is going to be the tail for North America. If they can take this 3-story building away, they might have the ability to then take the trench and then start assaulting that main building. But it's really a specific line here.
Bravo goes down, but Adam's going to go down as well. You can see North America slowly taking control over this area, but there are so many people from Latin America. Every window feels like it's got somebody, but the aim from North America is starting to pay off, as now you can see Latin America is having to retreat back away from this front line.
Yeah, they're getting really contained in this main building, and if they have anyone get inside, it's going to be very scary. And now they're starting to take the warehouse, trying to make their way through the trench. But I guess Latin America is doing a really good job at defending any potential flanks.
Lowell Suk looks like the only member that managed to make it around that angle, so has to be very cautious. The moment he takes any shots, he's going to get spotted out. And there you go. It's going to be Roji that managed to take him down. Going to continue that push back over towards North America's foothold as more and more members from Latin America go down. Little Prodigy's going for a spray back and forth through this window, through this doorway, but there's not a lot of places for him to really make any plays off of it, as again, Latin America just has the numbers and are just sending it into these buildings.
Super close still. It looks like North America's starting to get a little bit of an advantage. This is the trench fight continuing on as Inkis is just trying to find it. He lost him. There he is. Prodigy. Oh, comes in from behind the rope-a-dope. He will get him down. And Lobes is now in the building. The nades start to come into play. This could be a high-value grenade that's going to land right in the pocket. And there's a couple down.
North America is starting to get it. They're getting more control over Lobster. They managed to push from multiple different angles, and you can see Latin America just was not ready for it. There is bodies and crates just littering the ground everywhere right now. The spray is going to go through back and forth. One of the members from Latin America goes, or North America goes down. Second member goes down. Here comes the push from Nitrogen. He's finally going to take down.
This is going down to the wire. Only 3 players left. North America almost has this game in hand. A couple of those players are actually in the down state. So there's only one. It's Frogman. Frogman's by himself.
Here's the question, Moses. Why do we need phase 2 at this point? There's only 2 people left.
Well, I think Gubin's in the down state, so it's only Frogman, the last man technically alive. As that was really damn close there in the midpoint, but after losing the foothold in the Lobster building, there's now only Frogman running in with fists out, trying to get something to go. He's got lots of bullets. We've saw him in the last game. Yeah, do something as a solo player, but against 10,
show us what you got right now. 1v10. Can you get it off? He's going to hear the footsteps. Gonna look around. It's so cautious at this point. A little nerve-wracking, but you do have the opportunity for it. Everybody was kind of caught up in that fight that was happening around Lobster, so nobody saw him come in. So he has the opportunity to maybe get a couple of kills here, but let's be honest. 1v10, you're gonna have to have the game of your life. Goes for the spray point, and he just gets straight up denied right there. Latin America, they almost had boot camp, but then they just turned sideways so quickly for them.
You can kind of see the confusion on Cat's face. They're like, what was that? And that was my question as well. To have everyone go boot camp and have such a massive fight. That game lasted no more than 10 minutes.
I mean, it was over and done. We didn't even make it into phase 2, Moses.
Well, you know, I appreciate the speed in which we're getting through these games, but man, Latin America, I don't know what that, like, they just did it all decide, like, let's all go boot camp and try and battle it out, because that was absolutely absolutely bonkers. I think only North American players move past South Boot Camp, but literally everyone in Latin America.
Frogman was like way back down to the south.
Frogman, I don't know what the game plan was there either, but this must have been an absolute disaster. Like even in the worst public game, you're not having 64 plus players in boot camp.
Here's the problem that I have with it though. Latin America, this has to be very demoralizing to lose this quickly inside of this. They kind of had control there for a bit, and then reinforcements from North America just kept coming from so many different angles, they just couldn't protect it all.
I don't know if it's demoralizing, because it was close. It was close for most of that game, right up until the very end, but when things came apart, they came apart very quickly. And, I mean, Latin America, they lost this game by a smaller margin than the first, so I guess we could call it an improvement.
Well, as you can see, it looked like Latin America. They had so much control here, but then North America just kept strangling down from so many different angles. And that's kind of the negative side of whenever you have everybody inside of one building, it just makes it to where grenades become so much more powerful on these pushes, on these breaches in. You only really have to hold certain angles. It was just really interesting to see how this played out.
Well, especially in the Lobster building where there's so many points of entry. You've got doors and windows on all sides. You can come in through the center, you can come in through the northern side. And that is the, I think probably the linchpin to losing that particular fight is that once players start to leak in, you can't get them out of there. And especially with grenades, Lopes was up on the balcony chucking grenades across.
There was just so many different angles, and you can see that North American players figured out how that they could make their approaches, and once they were like, hey, if you take this path, it works, suddenly all the other members kind of just funneled in back behind it. You had that one person that had the foothold, and then it just turned problematic very quickly for Latin America.
Well, we have potentially only one more game left to play, as Latin America is now down 2-0 to the North American squad. So we're going to take a quick break, get everyone back in the lobby, and see what we have in store for game number 3.
Battling a man, a fight to the finish, we can war it to the end if you like, cause you and them see that time's not a thing here when you're being blessed and born to the life. See me, I got a sample of the plan on the 4K image, you can see me spitting bars on the mic. I always go hard, so you better go home, cause I heard you saying that I'm wrong when I'm right. See the flash of the light, see the ding of the bell, for the bright from the gun and I'm gone. You best believe that I know where I'm from, see the man them already know that it's on. We all know the hard work pays off, everybody stays on. No one on my team is ever thinking of the days off. I do it when God willing. Furthermore, I want the whole team chilling. It's a graph that they don't see. I know that I won't be here to be sad at the end. That we can do it for real right here, no pretending. When I'm kicking the ball like Beckham is bending. Whatever the weather, I keep it together. I keep getting better, and nobody on this planet can tell me otherwise. Open up your eyes, you better recognize. I'll be set on the stage, ready to go. The way that I know you don't know me, I'm the winner. Expert in the game, can't mean I'm no beginner. I'm a win. I'll be set on the stage, ready to go. The way that I know you don't know me, I'm the winner. Expert in the game, can't mean I'm no beginner. Let's begin. I said I got them all rattling, now I'm ready for battling. You wanna just tell me I'm not, but I'm having it. But I'm staying on side with the ball. Now I'm travelling, gets weak at the knees and the seas. So I'm flattening him, getting boxed in the face and I'm moving, I'm jabbing him. Talk the talk, we can go, cause it's happening, we can go to the floor. you're in the war, I'll be grappling. I know what the gamble is, believe I'ma handle this. I'll be set on the stage, ready to go. The way that I know, you don't know me, I'm the winner. Expert in the game, can't mean I'm no beginner. I'll be set on the stage, ready to go. The way that I know, you don't know me, I'm the winner. Expert in the game, can't mean I'm no beginner. I've been there, I'm real. I've been into work when I'm ill. I've grafted, I've signed on, been laid off, been kept on. Done cleaning, built vans, and I come on my night with paint on my hands. Had no funds, had no phone, had bare stress, been so low. I've chased flames, been so mad, got so deep, been so sad. I've fixed up, I've hit back, I've picked up. I'm so glad I work hard, I stay strong, and I do it again in a heartbeat. And it's nothing to do with luck, so don't give up. Set on the stage, ready to go. The way that I know, you don't know me, I'm the winner. Expert in the game, can't mean I'm no beginner. I'll be set on the stage, ready to go. The way that I know, you don't know me, I'm the winner. Expert in the game, can't mean I'm no beginner.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GLL Grand Slam Showdown, where Latin America is down 2-0. I'm WTF Moses, joined by Matrim, and it is now all on the line in a very early game number 3.
Yes, to say the least. I want to say that we probably have seen one of the most record-breaking rounds in PUBG history, with got to be probably the fastest competitive match we've ever seen.
We just saw 64 players all jump into boot camp and absolutely destroy not only their own teammates, but everyone else that they could find. And eventually it came down to a narrow, but still North American victory.
I mean, now the question is, what's next? I think that we're going to be making our way over towards Erangel for the final round. No surprise off of that one. Everybody's very comfortable on that map. So with this kind of no shakeups, no Sandhawk again, I think that everybody kind of was like, okay, let's not do that. That didn't go according to plan for anyone. And now we're going to get a little bit more spice coming back inside of this.
Well, we'll see if the Latin American strategy changes up a little bit. We saw in the first Erangel match, everyone went military base in Pachinki with a couple of pockets here and there and spread out across the map. But maybe we'll get a more standard circle, and maybe Latin America will be able to get off to a slightly better start as the North American squad is looking to close this thing out quickly.
I gotta say, I feel it is so dangerous to have everybody drop in one location, because sure, you get control over that location, and like where we're looking at with boot camp, it's gonna be towards the center. But then as reinforcements start coming in from everyone else on the other enemy team, suddenly you just have all of these different vantage points that you're trying to protect from, and sooner or later you're going to falter. And once that line breaks down, suddenly it's just everybody all up on top of you.
And for the Latin American squad, I don't know what they're going to change. I imagine communication is very hectic, as with 32 players on a single team. I imagine it looks like what Twitch chat sounds like, or it sounds like what Twitch chat looks like, I should say. Man, I don't know what they're going to change up here, if anything. But they're definitely having a good time, at the very least. I haven't seen a sour face on any of these streamers' faces so far.
I went down a second ago and all the Latin American guys were just having a fun time. They were like laughing back and forth. Okay, it's like, what do? We don't want to do this. Let's try to go bring in a new strategy. Whereas North America just feels very comfortable right now. They've got the lead. They really just have to not mess it up in this last round.
Well, North America, very competitive team, as we've kind of mentioned. A lot of players with a lot of competitive experience, and now Erangel is the potentially last match, as we are going to have a nice even playing path through the center of the map, right to left, and right away we can see, I think people are starting to spread out, go elsewhere. Latin America looks like they're headed for Yasnaya.
They get a little bit of a push over there, separating out a touch, as it also looks like they might be looking towards school, maybe Rajak. North America, very separated out. Looks like they're just trying to, like, almost little squads. They're trying to go for control points.
Looking like it's going to be Yasnaya, Razak, maybe even School, as we've seen again, another giant pocket of players all headed to one place with a small contingent of North Americans opting for the coastal areas. But looks like for Yasnaya specifically, that LATAM should have, I think, almost the whole place to themselves.
It's going to be like, we've got one group of Latin Americans that should be perfectly safe, another two groups of North Americans. Naturally, we also have some guys that are taking control over Pachinki as well. But I'm kind of curious as to what's happening just to the north of this. How many North Americans are going to commit to this drop, where we see so many Latin American players, as Latin America is kind of separated out from multiple locations. You can see it is just a cluster in the middle of the map. Over here in apartments, you can see separation coming out. It looks like Latin America tried to get control over a couple of the apartments, while North America just opted directly into one of them.
This is probably the best setup we've seen so far from LATAM, as they don't have anyone killing each other first off the gate, so that's a good start. Not to mention the fact that
what the hell, man? What is with these circles?
Okay, well, we're going to the military base, but we might be going to the military base depending on this next couple of minutes shakeout. But LATAM's got Yasnaya. They should now have no issues getting looted, which has been their biggest issue in the early game in the last 2 matches. So with this control, a lot of time and space, this will give them their best shot to compete. They only have 31 players, mind you, in this particular game, but the advantage has always gone to North America so early that this should be the best possible path to victory, as we already see a couple of players going down on the North American side.
I think that Latin America is aware that they have the numbers advantage, so they're just making the push right up into the apartments. Not a lot of North Americans in here, and you can see it's starting to turn very much in Latin America's favor.
Party's full, bro. You can't come in.
Yeah, there is just nowhere for North America to go. I believe they still have one person alive up towards the top. No, they got two. It looks like Cat might be the last one now, and nowhere to go.
Clean sweep. They just cleared out that apartment building, no issue whatsoever. And that is now both the Pachinki area as well, or sorry, excuse me, the apartments area as well as Yasnaya going to the Latin American squad. With North America, you know, they've still got a lot of players left alive, but they're spread out through the map. And I imagine we are going to see probably one of the craziest bridge camps in history setting itself up with Adam being the first man there.
I mean, they have the opportunity. North America can gatekeep out from multiple different locations here. They can actually, with a squad this size, you can just take control over almost the entirety of the circle when it's set up like this, make it to where Latin America can't push through. Now, there is a group of North Americans that is to the north of where we see some of the Latin Americans that where we were just at with school. A couple of North Americans have gone over to Rajak, so they're going to be the latecomers to the party.
I want to see the most epic bridge camp in history right now. That's all I'm interested in, is to have everyone kind of come down to the bridge, bring their vehicles, because it's going to take a long time to get 31 players looted up. So if North America is quick and they get down to those bridges, they could easily contain or at least force the Latin American players into the channel between the main and Military Island.
I'm just getting this mental image of 20 people in a bridge camp. And that one scout that drives through, there's only going to be like one guy that goes on that bridge, but that one guy is going to be super dead.
Yeah, let me just quickly scout the bridge. So, bridge is not clear. Bridge is not clear.
Do not come this way. So naturally, Latin America, if they're thinking about their approach, they're probably going to move over to the Western Bridge anyway. So North America could actually grab both of those if they move quickly. And we can see that they're already opting into this. I think that having a whole bunch of pro players, they're aware of this circle. They're probably calling out comms like, we need to go now. We need to get control points and just wait and try to mop up everybody that's rotating through.
If they're smart, they're going to set up at the gas station as well as the other bridge, because the gas station will give you complete vision over that entire beach. So that means you can maybe start. You know what? If they wanted to be really deadly, they could potentially start beaching boats along the bridges or between the bridges as well. I had that happen to me in a public game when PUBG first came out. I was just like, it was a bridge game, and I just saw one guy just like running down the beach, beaching boats. Like, you know, it is a horrifying feeling when you have to go to the Military Island and you have only one way to get across.
So we're looking at all of these players just running along the red zone. Are all of them good players, or is one of them going to be a bad player and die to the red zone? Looks like everybody's going to be able to make it through pretty safe, as, surprise, surprise, Pachinki getting a red zone. And then off over there to the west, look at that other bridge. A couple of people already setting up. Looks like we are going to see the massive bridge camp.
I have a tremendous level of excitement right now as Ashik Resnick and Verk Viking have all made their way onto the bridge. And they're going to need to essentially support themselves in a smart way, because there could be potentially 31 angry Latin American players driving their way very quickly.
Well, don't forget, we do have flare guns in this lobby as well. So we could see the BRDM come in, be a factor for this, depending on how Latin America opts into playing it. But you can see it's just North America. They're just taking all of these control points. They knew that they had the location based off of drops since they positioned down. Now, how does Latin America react to this is the question.
And Adam's going to take the 3-story compound just to the north of the bridge. It's going to be nearly impossible to get through this unscathed unless they just absolutely send it. So if they're smart, they're going to do multiple points of contact. One in this particular compound that we're looking at, one on the bridge, but they've got themselves up and perfectly contained. Ashik's probably going to start maybe priming grenades up here. He's got great vision. He could play the little lookout on top of this thing in the crow's nest.
Just as long as you don't fall. That's the big problem. As you make your way up, this looks like he's going to go for the second pylon. Yep, going to slowly creep his way up there, so he's going to be able to just rain down.
He's watching the beach. He's watching the beach to make sure that they know exactly where everybody's at.
So we actually have Arthur that was in a little bit of an odd spot, taking a couple of shots at North Americans there. Going to slow him down at least. I don't think that he managed to get the flush onto anybody.
Can we see the map real quick? I want to see where everyone's moving. There we go. So now we can see a big contingent of Latin American players are making their way towards Milta, and the other group is kind of stuck around the south of Pachinki.
It looks like Latin America might be opting to go towards that peninsula. We might see like 10 cars just send it over that cliffside.
They could be forcing them to go to the bridge as well, because this is now outside of Milta, and they're gonna force them out and around. Really, the zone is coming. There's only a minute and a half to go, so they are gonna have to eventually move somewhere south, and there's really not a lot on the main island.
4 people in a UAZ that might have to drive through a huge bridge camp. This could be extremely problematic. So Now, Latin America, what you got? I think that they're aware something's a little bit of awry. They're looking around, maybe seeing if maybe they can go over towards the beach, maybe find a boat over there. But it looks like
they could go to the mill to power area. I think that's the only spot that's uncontested right now. But I mean, there's only going to be maybe two, maybe maximum 3 boats.
I think that we're starting to see the beginnings of the bridge camp come into play over towards the east. You can see the North America just continuing the bridge camp over on the western side. So now North America is down 3 members, but there are about to be a ton of Latin American players in sight lines very quickly, depending on how rotations come into play.
So it looks like they're not going to do the 2-stage bridge camp here. They're going to come all the way to the southern end, and this is going to be the 1 boat. So they can filter this UAS across, but that's it. So they're going to maybe have to send the Latin American Navy SEALs across to try and maybe disrupt a bridge camp from behind.
Punij, I didn't think got the memo that, hey, we need to go to bridges right now. He's going to be the last guy way over here towards the north. Punij, though, looks like we're starting to see a little bit of bridge camp coming to action. 1 member down, and you can see that there's a lot of people starting to die off over here as now we got Latin America trying to figure out what do we do. Can we get any shots out of this? At this point, you almost just want to go for the res, jump in the water, and just try to get away. Maybe try to find a boat back over towards Milta, but I think it's just too much resources being denied at this point.
Well, they made it through the first stage, which was the 3-story compound, but now they've made it to the gas station where a kickstart and everyone is now waiting to receive them. And a couple of res is coming out here as they did lose a few players. And now the numbers are starting to equalize after that first engagement in the apartments as more and more, you can see there's only 2 boats in the water, and everyone else has now got to make their way across either the bridge or the other beach. But I got to say, I mean, North America has let a couple of these guys sneak through.
Yeah.
But now it's going to be a matter of fighting on the other beaches, which they have no coverage. So it looks like Latin America, they're going to avoid most of the horrible bridge camps that have been set up.
I mean, you got to be aware. You have to know that this is going to happen. Pack's trying to hold that angle, and look at this. Latin America is just starting to find ways. These little holes inside of North America's bridge camp. Kick starts back over here looking towards 2 other members, but Crossfire is going to come into play, and there we go. Now just a 1v1 right around the gas station area. A couple of shots coming up from North America off to the side of it, but look, Kickstart's just going to step up and get the down onto it.
Nice couple of shots there. Kickstart is going to basically take 3v1 there as the gas station did kind of fall there for a brief moment, but North America will regain control of their petroleum as they are so interested in doing so often.
It's just mirroring life right now. We like our oil, what can we say? So now Loeb's looking back over towards the people who managed to jump into the boats, feeding that information over. But how are everybody that's on the bridge right now? They're going to have to rotate down. So all these guys, while they did manage to get a foothold on Sosnovka Island, what do you do next when all the numbers from North America start flooding down that bridge?
And it looks like they've kind of noticed. They saw the boats come across, and the land management now a big deal as they've got the little hillside to work with. And Loeb's going to get an eye on the 1, but he will get traded down, so that's going to be 1 for 1. And he does have support. Wolf and Miss Avery are going to come in and try and support from the back line.
Ooh,
there's one
nice
of the base, standing nice and still for Wolf.
So now Wolf managed to find that angle and is starting to sneak in between these different squads that are posted up over there. Sees off another angle, gets himself another one, just continuing to be a 1-man army pushing over towards Latin America. I'm curious to see. I think he hears the footsteps, so he's aware somebody's inside this building. Just going to go ahead and nade over the other side of it. That's pretty nice.
That is,
man. If that had gotten it down, that would have been crazy.
It's like Allen Iverson hit a shot like that where he just kind of threw the ball up in the air over Dwight Howard, and that was amazing. I mean, inside basketball references fit well into a video game broadcast. Wolf now going for that long walk. What's Omni? Is Medding, I guess? Yeah,
looks back around there, and worst time to get caught out. So now you can see the push is coming through, and it's just Latin America getting demolished on this push. Sure, they managed to find boats, but it's not going to pay off for them at this point.
And for the rest of North America, they are just kind of using those grenades to good effect. And even though some players did make it across, the advantage, actually it's not too much of a man advantage right now. It's 21 to 23, but it kind of feels like North America is starting to take a foothold and a stranglehold on this game.
I do have to say, Latin America managed to survive this trap very nicely at this stage.
They've got a bridge camp going. How did this happen?
Oh my God, Punij, what were you doing? What loot did you need so bad that you managed to miss everybody back behind it? You have a ton of potential kills in front of you. Can you get anything out of it? He's now giving away his position, and look, it's going to be just a headshot to take him down.
Nice shot from Netanyahu there as Punij will go down, but I didn't notice in the midway point that the North American squad does still have a stranglehold on that bridge. Punij is unfortunately going to go down. the fledgling Fortnite pro, still trying to find his legs here in PUBG. A new game to him, but now Mystery, he's got the SLR at the ready, and he will take down Gubin. This is starting to feel like maybe a North American victory.
Well, you say that, but Latin America, in that moment that we saw the map, they've managed to move in past these edges and get control over different parts of the circle right now. Most of North America is right on the edge of the circle or fighting out inside the blue. This could be very bad for them, as again, people like Forever can just hold these angles, and you can see everybody from North America is still taking this blue damage.
Just a bit of a lull right now, as now the bridge patrons are starting to come off the bridge and out of the zone, and there's a few guys kind of coming up the right side of the bridge there for Latin America. But right now, the kill feed is still kind of showing a little bit of an advantage to North America, 21-15.
Teknosh gets spotted out, so he's going to go down. That's going to leave Forever back over there. He's already taken a little bit of damage as well. So getting a couple of damages. I think he's gotten managed a down or two over there. Adam's going to be following in back behind this, and it's almost like a trap. There's one member of North America that's down, but look, there's going to be Latin America pushing back behind this, and again, North America does not have any position inside of the safe zone right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, but they're clearing out Latin American players who are outside the zone, preventing them from getting across, and that is then going to lead to likely the roving death squad once this kind of settles down. So we'll see what happens here in the next minute and a half or so as this next circle continues to close.
Yeah, it's just a defensive line right now from North America. Just look at that mini map down there. It's just everybody up towards the north right now. So if you're in Latin America and you're in that northern position, you are just struggling right now, just trying to find somewhere. No reinforcements coming in from the other members in Latin America that are in the safe zone right now.
There's only 4 of them too, right? I mean,
yeah.
there's 2 squad. It looks like 2 have gone down for the crate, 2 on the observatory, and the rest are on the bridge. So this is kind of, it didn't play out the exact way that I had hoped, but for the most part, North America's completely contained them off the island.
So now what do we have that's going on over here? Latin America still has a couple of people on the bridge. Shots going back and forth between them, but it feels like they are just trapped over there through the wall of bodies that North America has on this angle.
It's kind of waiting now as they are literally stuck on the bridge unless they vault off. Forever's trying to make his way away, but yeah, they are basically stuck, and you can see it's just a firing squad. That's 10, 15 players, Ashik included, just firing down the barrel, and more and more. They're getting shot in the feet. They don't even know, as there's almost nothing they can do, and now it's a 10-man advantage going to North America. And I don't think we're making it past 3 games here, Matthew.
Oh, Bad Polly, you are not in a place you want to be right now, buddy. There are so many North American players around. Goes for the spray back over towards Adam, gets some damage off of it, but does manage to get it down. But he has so much attention coming his way. Look at everybody just coming up from that other angle.
She didn't have a chance, unfortunately, and down she goes, and that's going to be a quick wipe there, as it looks like this northern side of the military island is all but settled. But now they have the high side on the observatory. There's 4 players there. But I guess the only advantage they have up here is it's going to be hard to get to them, but not from distance. Eco is going to go down.
I mean, that's the big problem right now. Every single down is such a detriment, because Frogman's going to have to run back over here, no longer watching that angle, and that's just going to let the army of North America continue to push in. If you don't have anybody taking those shots, you can see every single time. Forever just took a couple of pot shots at him. It's 10, 15 people that are just spinning back over on that angle.
And even if they do manage to survive this onslaught, they're going to have to come off the observatory hill, and that's going to make things really difficult. D-Rich on his vehicle rotation coming in behind, and he's going to get a headshot, 1 HP, but he will get down. And the quick flush as well, as D-Rich does go down. But this is unraveling very quickly for Latin America.
Now it's just going to be about angles as we watch the roving car roll back down there. Is it going to be able to take down anybody?
Keep following. Keep following.
Come on, down.
Get Shinoda. Oh, damn it.
I wanted that so bad. All right, so here we go. Latin America got a couple more downs. 6 people alive right now, and I believe that 3 of them are down. This is turning out to be pretty bad for them. They're not even inside the new safe zone at this stage. Where do you even go? As again, it is just so many people off on this other angle.
This is gonna feel a little unsettling if you're stuck in this wizard hut. He's in the office side of it, but Eco will go down once again, and the finish, and only 2 players left alive now.
Here's the question. Do you be a jerk at this point and then just try not to die so that way you can just drag this out for as long as possible? Uncivil just teaching some respect to his teammates, being like, no, you listen to my calls. Frogman gets spotted out. And now down
Adam
to 1.
found as well.
Oh, he took the shots. He's got 2 of them down.
Yeah.
But here it comes.
What else you got?
Just get something out of it. Get the moral victory off of the kills. You can see that they're just running up there. He doesn't have the angle, but no, North America's gonna get it in a very quick 3-0.
That was absolute domination there from the North American squad, as Latin America unfortunately just did not ever have an opportunity to get a foothold. And wow, that's got to feel, I mean, I don't think there was ever really any chance through any of those games for Latin America. They were close in game number 2.
They had a couple of moments. They got close, and whenever they got control over Lobster, then they had the reposition out and around where they avoided the bridge, but then just so many members got caught up in those North American bridge camps. And I got to give a shout out. I wanted to see that Dacia run over somebody so bad still. That was like, that would have been my MVP of the round.
Yeah, the Ghost Dacia flying down the hill. Kickstart's 3v1 there was pretty interesting as well. Wolf hitting some nice shots. There was a couple of nice bolt action shots here out in the open, but Wolf in his own right definitely did a lot of damage. He already picked up a couple of kills there. Punish coming in from behind with the SLR, and it was just wide open battling all the way through this thing, Matt.
I mean, it's just, again, I think it comes down to communication and executing off of a plan. North America felt like in every single one of these positions, they wanted to take control over the game, and that's a big thing inside of PUBG. Whenever you're playing reactionary and you're having to play off of other people's strategies, it's very hard to figure out what the right decision is to do. Meanwhile, if you're the one that's just dictating the pace of the game, you've got all control over it, and you're forcing everybody to play off of what you want to do, you're just already winning the mental game.
And I mean, the last ditch effort was trying to come off of that bridge, and then by then North America had them completely contained, and then the observatory hill was the last stand.
Oh my
but
God.
They were getting sniped from distance. You can't peek against 15 players.
Yeah, I mean, they had the idea of it. They're like, okay, we'll get the high ground and we'll shoot them in the back. And then once you saw everybody in Latin America die over right next to that bridge, and they all just looked back up towards the observatory, it was just done.
Well, that does it for us, Matt. That was a quick 3-0.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be moving on to the winners match, which is going to be CIS versus North America. That's coming up in about half an hour's time. But for myself, WTF Moses, and Matt, it was a ton of fun. We'll see you tomorrow.